there, and welcome to Wine Inspired in 2 minutes. So as you know by now, every Monday is my chance to take all the wine regions of the world, focus on one, and break it down in 2 minutes so that you can have a little bit more of a foundation and a way to explore wine. This episode is inspired by my sister. So she was curious about a particular region and she said, hey, can you go over this region? And I said, absolutely. So let's get it going. Today is Portugal, a very elusive and somewhat difficult region or country for wine for some people, but we're gonna really start understanding it more. So I've got my little, and a cork, I've got my timer right here for us. And the particular winemaking region in Portugal we're going to focus on is Douro. So Douro is our region in Portugal. Let's do it. 2 minutes. All right. So, as I mentioned, we're focusing on the Douro region of Portugal, this winemaking region. You'll see a map flash up here by Wine Folly. Thank you, Wine Folly. And it is going to be one of the oldest wine regions of Portugal. Okay, so that's the who. Now, what is the Douro Valley or the Douro region all about? It's about indigenous grapes. So that's something to take away here. Portugal is synonymous with these more indigenous native grapes and not all the grapes that we necessarily know about. Like, you know, they'll have more of a grape called Touriga Nacional versus, say, Cabernet Sauvignon. So a lot of emphasis on native grapes. Where? So where exactly is this? Other than being in northern Portugal, Douro is influenced by the Douro River. So that's a big part of why it is the way it is. Lots of different elevations. So all the different elevations and these schist and granite soils contribute to the style of all these native grapes that they have planted there. So that's the where. When is really cool too. So this is one of the oldest demarcated wine growing regions in the world, not just Portugal, but in the world. So 1756 is when people got together and said, okay, this is a special place. We're going to demarcate it and make sure that people know it is special and has wines that it creates that, you know, really display what the region has to offer. And why? Why is it important? It's because it's unique. You can find really inexpensive, affordable wines to explore, and it gives you an opportunity to really try to open your mind and see a little bit more about Portugal. Okay? Either I did really good or I did not press start. I just did really good! Okay, there we go. So that's done. Now, we're going to taste a wine here from Portugal and the Douro. And it's worth mentioning, a lot of people associate the Douro or even Portugal just with port. So port's that fortified wine, but they make a lot of still red wine. So don't be afraid to try a still red wine from Portugal, because that's where you're really going to feel the true kind of authenticity of a place. Okay? So we are going to try a wine called Barco Negro, and it is from Douro, as you see here. It's 2012 vintage. I'll give you a little bit more info about the wine below. But it is an interesting blend of, like I said, those native grape varieties. It's Touriga Nacional, Touriga Franca, and a grape called Tinta Roriz. That's another name for Tempranillo. So if you ever had a Tempranillo from Rioja, that is what is in here as well. So kind of an equal parts blend. And they're used kind of more traditional old world winemaking. You can even see the color and the richness of the wine is so strong it even throws a little sediment in youth. I guess you can't really see the cork, but it has a little sediment. And never be afraid of sediment on a cork. It doesn't mean the wine is bad. It just means that some wines in youth can powerfully throw sediment because of all the pigmentation of the grapes. So that's that. And another big thing is when you are experiencing Portuguese wine and these native indigenous grape varieties, really be aware. It's going to be an interesting aroma. So let's dive in and see what we're getting, because it should be unique to some of the aromas we've ever smelled. So opposed to being really fruit forward and oaky, this wine has a lot of like black currant and black cherry, but all of that, all the fruit is really hidden behind this earthiness and this savoriness and this spiciness. There's a leathery nature, there's a herbal quality, there is almost a smoked meat and a licorice and really dirt, just from the earth, dirt, but a really interesting aroma here. So don't be afraid, it's pretty cool. When you give this wine a sip, that's cool. So not too tannic. That means tannins are those really drying, aggressive, grippy compounds in a wine. So this one has not a lot of that. Opposed to the smell, it's not as rustic and funky as you might have thought. So it's still very fresh and lively on the palate with a lot of black fruit. Still those savory, earthy, and meaty notes, but they're all just very nicely presented. It's not a intense, complex, thought-provoking wine per se, but it is just very approachable and drinkable and understandable, which is something I think is important when you're trying new wines, especially from Portugal, right? And yeah, nice bit of a warming alcohol, but not too much. Overall, this is a very tasty wine. So give Portugal a chance. Try this wine. Very affordable. This is, I think, $11.99. We like that. And hopefully you have learned a little bit more about Portuguese wines, more about these indigenous grape varieties, and what to expect when giving the wines of Portugal a try. All right, so stay wine inspired. You could like this video as well. Maybe have a glass of wine or have a sip and then like it. And then maybe have another sip or another glass and subscribe. And I hope to see you all next week, where we keep exploring the wine regions of the world.